Hi everyone! The next portion of our lesson is all about comprehension, and this is how kids are learning to think about what they read. Now, I have this as a separate segment, but it can happen before they read, it can happen while they're reading, it can happen after they read. You see my little one colored in this book, but it's real, it's okay. Um, but comprehension is just all about students understanding what they read. So there's different types of questions. One could be a basic recall question. That's just something directly in the story, like what were the characters' names? They can see right here, it's Ted and Peg. And then they also might experience something called higher order thinking questions. Those are going to be a little more like why. Like here it says, Pink Pig is in a pen. Why is he in a pen, right? So we're going to start asking them questions that doesn't say why, but we know we don't want the pig to run away. He belongs to someone. So I have given you in your parent guide tons of different types of questions that you can ask your little one that will work with any book that you read. As a beginning reader, some of the strategies that I found really help is one of them is activating background knowledge. Now, background knowledge is just anything you know about anything about the topic. So I might look here at the cover and we might just start talking about what we notice and what we see and all of the different things that might come into play in the book. Like, oh, I see a sunshine. I see a guy, he's happy. And we're just talking before we read. And it can also help us just make predictions, think about what might happen in the story. Like maybe he might get hot from the sun. And there's no wrong prediction here. But just before you start reading, just kind of tapping into getting them thinking about it. One of the things that I think is the most important is to monitor and clarify. Now, you don't have to use those words, but it's just teaching your little one to stop if something doesn't make sense and ask. You cannot just keep reading if you don't know a word. So you want to open up a space to them where you celebrate if they ask questions. Like if they say, what does that word mean? And outside of the questions we're about to go over, my biggest tip for building comprehension is that children who have a very rich or a lot of background knowledge, just a lot of information about a lot of stuff, are kids who long term have the most success with comprehension. It's not necessarily our best readers. So there's a few ways to build that. One is just talking to your child a lot. When you go to the store, narrate yourself like, oh, we're walking in the store. I've got to get a grocery cart. Or, ooh, we're outside. I see a tree. Trees have bark on the outside. Just really over the top, kind of explaining everything you're doing and everyday tasks for them. Another great way to do this is to build book or read a lot of books with them that are nonfiction. That means true books. So if you head to your library, any book that has like real pictures, maybe they want to learn about whales or snakes. I really like the books that are like 100 weird facts because it gives them just like a lot of information about a lot of stuff. So not during this lesson, but those are great ways to just kind of start building your students or your child's understanding about the world around them. But they also need to understand the world around their book. So one thing that I've found is really easy to just ask questions about is vocabulary. So there's a lot of words in stories, especially in decodable readers, that are words we don't see often, and you would be surprised if your kids know the meaning. Like here, we just talked about the pig pen. You might ask them, what's a pen? Right? And if they don't know, that's a great time to talk to them. Like if you see a word you don't know, you want to stop and you want to ask. They need to learn how to ask those questions. So pen, pen. A pen is something that holds in an animal. Like here you have the pen is a gate. And when you're talking about vocabulary, now it's okay to use the pictures. We don't want to use vocabulary to try to guess the words, right? Because we might have guessed a gate here. But when we're building meaning, it's okay for you to reference the picture because that's the beauty of picture books. They can teach us a lot of things. Something else you might ask your little one about is the structure of a book. So like the title, the front cover, the back cover, basic things like who are the characters? Those are the people in the story. What's the setting? Where are they? You can also ask about what's happening in the story. Like, oh my goodness, what is the hen doing here? The hen's on the bed. It doesn't have to be the world's greatest question. It's just about talking to them so they're understanding what's happening in the book. So there's lots of different questions that I've given you in your guide that you can ask your little one. But again, like I said, there is nothing more magical than an adult overreacting and enjoying a book. So when I open this page, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at it. What is the hen doing on the bed? And we might laugh together. And guys, it can be fake. You can be an actor with your little one, but you're showing them these big reactions, helps them have those kind of like fun moments when they're reading too, but it also helps them build meaning. So put on your little acting hat. If something sad happens at the end of the story, you can be sad. I'm just asking you to jump inside of the mind of a child for a little bit as you read. And the more you guys talk, the more they will learn how to build those comprehension skills when they're reading on their own one day in school.